Welcome to Pep Talk and Pickleball, the podcast where we explore empty nest life, health, fitness, and nutrition, all with a side of pickleball fun. I'm your host, Jill Lewis, your guide through this exciting phase of life. As a certified faster way to fat loss coach and fellow empty nester, I'm here to share insights, interview experts, and yes, sprinkle in some pickleball talk. Join me for weekly doses of motivation and laughter as we navigate health, happiness, and pickleball passion. Grab your paddle, join the conversation, and let's dive into Pep Talk and Pickleball. Welcome back to Pep Talk and Pickleball. This is your host, Jill Lewis. Thank you for joining me today. As always, I hope that you are having a great day and I'm keeping you company. Today's episode is Turning 50 Together, a college reunion in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. So if you don't know this about me, I went to St. Mary's College in South Bend, Indiana. It is an all-women's college, and I had an amazing experience. I loved all my friends, but I have to say, I have not been the best at keeping in touch with my college girlfriends. Most of the girls that I went to school with, I love seeing them on Facebook and Instagram and those types of things, and that makes me so excited. However, I'm not that great at, other than a Christmas card, not that great at reaching out and definitely not getting together enough in person. So this was really, really special. I'm telling you, there is something about turning 50 that really gets you thinking about time and the people in your life and spending it with those people. And you get real motivated to see your family and your friends, and especially your college girlfriends. So last year, I had a little mini reunion with some of my high school friends, which was amazing. So this year, getting together with the college girlfriends, super, super fun. So let me just tell you a little bit about my college experience. So my dad went to Notre Dame, and he was actually on the baseball team at Notre Dame. He was such a booster of the university. My whole family loves Notre Dame. My oldest brother went there. My sister went there. I have an uncle. My godfather went there. My niece went there. There's a lot of family and friends that we know that have gone there. And it was something that just our whole life, we were always Notre Dame friends. You know, I'm Catholic, so kind of goes hand in hand there. And especially if you're from the Midwest, you cheer for the Fighting Irish. And it just, our whole family loves them. It's a part of our fall. We would go to games. My parents always went to games. So when it came time for me to look at colleges, and you got to think this is back in the 90s, and nowadays we take kids to see a million different schools and it's a whole college tour and you've got the internet at your disposal. Back then, you just got some brochures from your guidance counselors. And my dad said, where are you thinking about applying? And the only thing I kind of knew was that I wanted to go somewhere smaller. I have to say, in high school, I didn't really give it my all. Wasn't really motivated. I really loved my government class. That was one of my favorite teachers, Mr. Jeter. That, and I took a class called Novel where we read just all the classics, and that was with Mrs. Lockwood. Gosh, those two teachers I was so highly motivated to do well for. Everybody else, no. Yeah, it just wasn't really my jam. You know, I had a great, great social life, but school was just not really it for me. So I kind of knew this was smart. At least I did know this about myself. I knew I would get lost in a big school environment, that would not, I needed to be held accountable. Okay. When it came time to picking a school, I thought, well, there's a small school, Quincy University. We had some family that have gone there, and that's a small Catholic school in Quincy, Illinois. And I thought, well, I know I can get into Murray State. That's a kind of a backup plan. That's in Kentucky. And that's a funny story. I applied there, and I swear I got my acceptance letter like a week later, and they misspelled my last name. And I immediately was like, no, wadded that up and threw it in the trash. Like, are you kidding me? You can't even spell my name right. Jill's out. So the other place that I applied was St. Mary's because my dad said, you should apply to St. Mary's. It's a great school. It's right by Notre Dame. It actually was Notre Dame's sister school. Still is considered like its sister school. At one point, so Notre Dame used to be an all men's university, and it was until the 70s. Then it became co-ed. So St. Mary's was going to blend with Notre Dame to become just one university. And at the last minute, St. Mary's decided to keep their identity and stay separate. So we've got St. Mary's literally across the street, and there's Holy Cross College, which is a community college that's just down the street. And then across the street, we've got the University of Notre Dame. So my dad said, you should go there. I think you'd really like it, blah, blah, blah. Sure, I'll apply. And in my mind, I'm just thinking, okay, it's an all women's school, but they allow a lot of reciprocity there. You could go to all the games, all the sporting events, your social life. It's not like you're just going to this small town. Well, there's probably like 100,000 people that live in South Bend at the time. So you go to this town and it's just all a women's college. I mean, you did have this big university right next to it. So that was appealing for sure, thinking, oh, I could go to all those Notre Dame sporting events. And so that's what I did. I got into St. Mary's and was like, yeah, let's do it. So I think when I was a little kid, maybe my parents drove through there. I do not remember what it looked like. I never stepped foot on the campus until I moved into my dorm. That's how different the times were back then. Yeah, St. Mary's was great. I moved into this dorm that was where most of the freshmen, not all, but a lot of the freshmen lived in this hall, Regina Hall. And it was a weird dorm at the time. I think it was kind of divided into the north and the south end. The south end felt weird. I don't think I ever got to know anybody over there. Maybe they were like some sophomores that lived over there that kind of didn't really have a social life. But on the north end, it was all freshmen. The first floor, which is what I lived on, were triplets and quads. And I lived in a quad with three girls from the South who were great. But we, totally did not know them at all. And they were great. But our room was an old classroom. Our closets were like filing cabinets. It was bare bones. It was just a strange room, kind of sterile. We made it fun. And then upstairs, though, on the second, third, and fourth floor were all singles. So it made it a very social dorm to live in because everybody had to get out of their rooms. Those girls that were upstairs, they all had to get out of their rooms to visit with each other. And I look back on it fondly. You had the community bathrooms, which was totally fine. That's just kind of the way it was back then. And all of the girls that I met on this trip, we all lived in Regina Hall our freshman year, which I just think is so funny looking back on it. And some of them I can really remember, like the first time that I had met them. And we had just a great time talking about good old Regina Hall, all about St. Mary's, the dining hall, the shared bathrooms, you just start remembering, okay, I used to wear flip-flops to walk down and get in the shower and, all those funny things. The campus itself is beautiful. Notre Dame's campus is beautiful as well. St. Mary's is just a really special place. When you drive into it, it's called the Avenue, and it's just this huge trees that line the avenue. Really beautiful. All of the buildings. Where I lived sophomore through senior year, by the way, most students at St. Mary's and Notre Dame actually stay on campus all 4 years, which is highly unusual. I know. I did try to move off campus my senior year, but my folks absolutely said no, which was a huge bummer, but it was fine. I still had a great experience. I had a really good dorm room my senior year, so it was fine. But my sophomore through senior year, I lived in a dorm called Lamont Hall, which is gorgeous, huge. So the architecture at Lamont, I would call it kind of Gothic. I think that's what you would say that is. It was just absolutely beautiful. It had a really pretty chapel in the dorm as well. That was really nice. And that's the thing about when you go to a Catholic school, we went to church quite a bit. I'm not saying I went every Sunday, but I went a lot. There's something about your friends walking down the hallway on a Sunday evening going, hey, we're going to church. Do you want to go? You kind of felt like a jerk to say no. There really wasn't a reason to say no. And you could just walk down there basically, not in your pajamas, but pretty close. I look like a slob with just your socks on, and you walk down and you could just go to mass. And it was just a kind of a casual mass. It was great. All the kids at Notre Dame did that too. So a lot of the dorms had their own mass times. And of course, you could go to the cathedral at Notre Dame on a Sunday or on the weekends and go to mass there. I don't really know that I ever did that very much, and I could go to St. Mary's as a gorgeous church as well. And I did that a few times, but most of the time I went to the more casual masses in our dorms. And so it's just fun to look back on that and think, man, what a great experience to be able to, you have friends that you share faith with. And that was kind of a thread that real commonality that we all still have that makes it a little extra special, in my opinion. So we talked about just all the things, our favorite hangout spots, the classes, the professors. We talked about a lot of that, obviously because of Notre Dame being there, what that was like and the tailgating, but we talked about the bars, the linebacker, which by the way, one of our friends' husbands is now a co-owner of, so that's kind of fun. We talked about Turtle Creek Apartments, which was just these dive apartments where our friends lived senior year, and just all of the dorm parties. Obviously, your freshman, sophomore year, we weren't allowed to go into the bars because we weren't 21, and no one back then really had fake IDs like they do now. And we would have dorm parties. Those were a blast. And we had dances that we called, this is so hilarious. So we talked about this a lot too. So we had dances in our dorms at St. Mary's and Notre Dame, and they were called SYRs. And SYR stands for Screw Your Roommate. So I guess that tradition started with you would set up your roommate with a date, and that's why it was called Screw Your Roommate. So I don't know if back in the day they used to set them up with people that they thought they wouldn't like. That's kind of mean, right? We definitely didn't do that, but we all tried to help each other get a date for our dorm formals or whatever you would call it. Or if there's there's a lot of organizations that would have their own formals and dances, and every dorm at St. Mary's and Notre Dame is kind of like a fraternity or a sorority. We don't have Greek life at either one of those schools. So where you lived kind of became your identity. And that I thought was really fun. And we would have these dances and we would get dressed up for them. And then you would help your roommates figure out like who to go to the dance with, which was hysterical because we would do this we had a freshman, it's called, I don't know what the official name is, but everybody called it the dog book. Okay. So you had your freshman dog book. And this was like a yearbook, but it just had everyone's senior and high school graduation photos listed. And everyone had, so you had your photo, and everyone's in alphabetical order. So you got your senior picture, and then over on the side, it would say like my name, Jill Brummel. If you had declared your major, mine was political science, what town I was from, what high school I went to, which is so hilarious because, all these kids that are from the cities all went to these fancy schmancy high schools, these or all women's prep school or Catholic schools and all these things. And, I'm from Marion, Illinois, and I went to Marion High School. So like, where else would I go? And then, because we don't have any other, schools around here, you just go to the public school in your town. And then it had what you could list two like favorite things or hobbies or interests. And mine said dancing and reading. So that still sticks today. So Jill at 18, Jill at 50, still really like both of those things. So my friends on this reunion, I asked them, I said, someone has to bring the dog book. So my friend, a couple of them brought the dog books. They still have them. And we pored over those all weekend, laughing hysterically about the dog book. So that's what you would use. And so it was from Notre Dame and St. Mary's. And that's what we used our freshman year and really all 4 years, I think, to help set up our friends with dates. You would look up and be like, okay, that guy's cute. That guy's cute. So you'd find a cute guy in the book. There must have been a phone number or something associated with it too. So we would find out what their phone number was in their dorm room, and you would call the dorm room, ask for that guy, and one of us would just start chatting him up. Hey, this is Jill from St. Mary's. How are you? Da, da, da. And immediately they're getting the dog book out and they're immediately thumbing through who are these chicks. And you're like, yeah, we're trying to figure out, like, we've got a dance coming up. We're looking for dates. And so do you have any friends that would want to come too? And then that guy would be like, yeah, I can, he can round up like 6 dudes to come over. Isn't this hilarious? This is how we did it. So then that guy would get his roommates or buddies that he has in his dorm to come with him to the whatever party that our dorm was having. And these are for the SYRs. And they would come over all dressed up, and we would be all dressed up, and we'd all introduce ourselves. And then we would just party in the dorm room, sneaking alcohol in there. And we would party in the dorm room, and then we would go to the actual dance. Now, the actual dance could be in the dorm or somewhere else on campus. And then as you got older, a lot of times those formals, like my senior year, the formal was in downtown South Bend. It was a much bigger deal, but hilarious to look back on and go, oh my gosh, the amount of blind dates. Some were super fun. Some were so cringy. I don't even want to go into the cringy ones, but hysterical. So we laughed about that all weekend long. And just the funny, like, oh, remember this girl and remember that. And then we talked about spring breaks and oh my goodness, it was too good. So then for me, I guess what's so interesting, life after college, everybody goes off in their different paths. Now, a lot of the girls of my friends still live in the Chicago area. I had a lot of friends from Chicago that went to St. Mary's, and still several of them are there. And I know I live in Illinois, but I mean, to understand the geography and the politics of Illinois, Chicago is in the very northeast corner. And I live in Southern Illinois, which is 5 hours south, and you might as well be on a different planet. I'm not kidding. So we're in a very rural area, and Southern Illinois used to be all coal mining kind of place. And then obviously that industry is now no longer, and that kind of killed the vibe of Southern Illinois because there's not much industry down here. We do the best we can, but for Chicago and the population of Illinois is all up in Chicago. It's two different planets. So while they live up there and we're 5 hours apart, everyone's lives just take over. And I got married a year after I graduated. So, I mean, I was out of it and moved back to Southern Illinois. And so you just kind of lose touch once you start having kids and things. But through social media, texting, Christmas cards, email, all that stuff, you can still stay connected. What was so fun about this trip, what I noticed is how diverse everybody's career journeys, what their families look like, all of that. But we all have they're just the common theme of so much love for each other. Everybody is you could just tell, very faith-filled, and just, it was so much joy in the place, That being said, of course, everybody has their struggles and the things that are going on in their life that are challenging for sure. But let me dive into the career path, because I thought this was really interesting how educated my friends are. So one is a grade school principal. I've got one of my good friends is a speech pathologist. One's a very accomplished attorney. One is a CFP, a certified financial planner. She's very accomplished. I mean, a pharmacist, my friend that's been a pharmacist. Oh my gosh, I'm so proud of her. Two of them work in hospital systems that have really interesting jobs, doing a lot of coordinating with those. And if you work with a hospital conglomerate, you know what I mean there. It was just cool to see. And man, they are so smart. These women are so smart. Their vocabularies are so impressive. And I told all of them that. I said, you guys make me feel like Donald Trump. I feel like I just say the same phrase over and over again. Awesome. And you know what I mean? Like I need a better vocabulary. They made me want to start reading like a word of the day or something. They are just so smart. I'm just so proud of all of them. And, we just shared all the significant things in our lives. It's so special when you do that, and life's challenges and the triumphs and the marriages and the relocations and the kids, and everyone that was there as a mother, everyone talked about how much they've changed since they were in their 20s, which I always think is so interesting with women. Women change so much. I don't know if it's just motherhood that does that or what, but my goodness, who you are at 21 to 25 is not at all, you feel just so different when you're 50 for sure. The sad thing is almost every one of us has experienced loss of at least one parent. Everyone has had some sort of trauma, something that they're worried about, something that they're praying about, something that's, been a really difficult experience to navigate. And that's something you just kind of bond over. And I think that's true for everybody. You don't realize that when you're younger, I mean, you're going to go through some major stuff. And I don't know, it was not that you want that for anyone, of course, but you do feel just that sense of camaraderie and sisterhood when you talk about it and we all listen and just give encouragement. Oh, it was really sweet. So, the planning process for this reunion, if you're somebody that's like, I want to do that, I want to get together with my friends that live across the country, and how do we do that? And I mean, it's no easy thing. This just kind of happened. I had three of the girlfriends had been talking about it, they said, for 6 months or more. And it was starting to get to that frustrating point where they just couldn't figure it out. And then one of my friends, she was actually the one that picked me up from the airport. It was her 50th birthday this weekend. And so she just called me up one day and said, hey, we found one weekend that will work to get together. Do you think you could make it? And you guys know me, I'm in a stage of my life where I'm saying yes to everything. So I was like, yes, I will be there. So even though I had a trip out to Seattle to visit my brother and my niece, I was like, you know what, I'm going to do this. So I was out in Seattle and I was able to just change my flight instead of coming back through St. Louis to get to Southern Illinois. I'm like, no big deal. Changed it to fly into Chicago. She picked me up from the airport and then drove me up to Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. And I mean, all I had to do was show up. So it was super, super easy. They're the ones that found the place. One of my friends, Lake Geneva, Wisconsin is only an hour and a half north of Chicago. So it's not far from there. It is gorgeous. It's a beautiful place to visit. It's the cutest town on this beautiful lake with stunning homes. And they had it all planned out. So the condo was rented and I just had to show up with my luggage and big smile on my face. And so we drove up there. I mean, seeing each other, some of these girls I have not seen in over 20 years. So fun. Just the emotions and then hearing how their voices, the voices and the laughs, I just took me right back. And man, everybody looks fantastic. Everyone looks fantastic. So we did some activities together but most of it was just really chill. We went on a boat tour. So we all kind of trickled in different times. Some of us were there longer than others. But one day, some of us went on a boat tour of Lake Geneva, which is very good. If you're ever in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, I highly recommend doing that. We did that 1 hour long tour. I loved it. We did a little bit of shopping. We had yummy lunches and dinners. We walked around the lake. So it's very interesting. In Lake Geneva, the homes are stunning and that are right on the water. And all of the docks are beautiful. They call them piers, but all the docks, they're all painted white and just beautiful. But the shoreline is public access. So you can walk along the shoreline. There's really nice paths that goes around the entire lake. And the lake is huge. I mean, it would take you a full day to walk it. So we didn't do that. You're walking in people's backyards, but that's how it is. And that's how everyone knows that about Lake Geneva. And it's a really neat thing. That was really, really cool to just look at those homes and stuff. And I mean, we went to church on Sunday morning. That was lovely. The message was great. I love, the thing about you go to a Catholic church, if you're Catholic, I love that you can travel anywhere in the world and go to mass, whether it's in English or not, but you kind of know, the formula, of the service, the parts of it, what's happening, exactly what's going on. But I love to see the different architecture of the Catholic churches. And I always enjoy hearing all the different priests. I just find it really fun. And plus it's special to be there with your college friends. So we went to church, we went to a day spa, we worked out. I worked out all 3 mornings I was there. We hung out by the pool. One night, two of my friends cooked. It was amazing. And we just stayed up late visiting. We had wine, we had cocktails. One of my friends made us gin gimlets, and she made us another drink called the bee's knees. Those were delicious. Both were gin drinks. And then another friend of mine brought ingredients to make mocktails. And I mean, I was shocked at how good it was. A rosemary grapefruit mocktail that was delicious. I need to recreate it and I'll share it on my Instagram. Okay. But everyone was just so fun. And what's funny to me too is how you notice that the friends, I mean, they've changed, but they're very the same. If someone was a hot mess express in college, that girl is still the hot mess express. The dancers still want to dance, the early birds still get up early and go to bed early, and the night owls are still the same, and the go-getters are still the go-getters. It's just hysterical to me. So I have been to some class reunions in the past. We have amazing class reunions at St. Mary's and Notre Dame. During the lockdown and COVID, we were actually supposed to have our 25th reunion during 2021, but the universities canceled it, which was a major bummer because that's kind of our big one, the 25th. And we were really sad. But because we're at St. Mary's, most of us, I would say 90 something percent of us, just we come to it stag. Like I've never brought my husband to one of my reunions because it's an all women's college and we all just and he would be bored out of his mind anyway. So we all go together and we stay on campus. And I have to tell you, when I go back to campus, and it's been a while, but when I go back there, the smells bring me right back. And every time I leave the reunions I've been to, and I drive home, I cry the first 15 minutes of driving. It makes me cry right now because it was such a special time. It was such a special place. These are the most amazing people. And I'm just so lucky to have them and to have this, this experience. Another thing I really noticed during this little mini reunion was how wonderful it was to share your opinions and not be canceled for it. People weren't argumentative. We all disagreed to some extent on, at least someone would disagree or challenge another person on something, a political conversation, but no one was mean and nobody treated anybody differently because they don't have the exact same beliefs that you did. And I think, man, wouldn't that be amazing if we could all be that way? Because these women are smart. And, if someone has a strong belief, like that's their belief. And I respect them for that. Like you believe that, okay, that's the number one issue to you. Okay. It's not my number one issue, but you feel convicted over something. There's a reason for it. And I'm not going to argue with you on that. I just listen. And then, we might share our opinion on it. But that was it. Like there wasn't anything. It was just so refreshing, I guess, that no one's getting upset if they disagree. We talked about our kids so much. We talked about how most of these girls have kids that are in junior high and high school and how college is front and center and how stressful that is. It made me so glad that phase of life is over. Taking your kids to get SAT prep and to take the SAT and look at their scores and all of their activities and the volunteering, that essays, and just getting ready for college. So stressful. Oh my gosh. I was so glad I'm done with that phase. But yeah, the real key takeaway for me was just how lucky we are. Everybody, their health is amazing. Everybody looked amazing. Everyone seemed, even those that were going through hard times, still have a very positive outlook. And that was just wonderful to see. And just the gratitude that we all have for each other. I can't recommend it enough to allow yourself that time. I know it's so hard for women to get away. It makes me mad that it's so hard for all of us to get away. But what's interesting about that is that just shows we're all just great moms. Like we all feel guilty about leaving the kids. We all feel guilty about leaving the husband. But we need this. Ultimately, we really care about the people in our lives. But taking that time to go away with your girlfriends is priceless. Got pickleball FOMO? Don't you worry. I've got you covered. Whether you are new to the sport or looking to up your game, I'm here to help. Hey, empty nesters, as a nutrition and fitness coach who's totally obsessed with pickleball, I've put together a free pickleball 101 guide just for you. In this guide, you will discover the basics of the game. I'm going to simplify the rules for you. I'm going to give you some nutrition tips to fuel your matches and workout routines that are specifically tailored to pickleball, and some more insider secrets to help you ace on the court. Ready to join the pickleball craze and stay fit while having a blast? Click on the link in today's show notes to grab your free pickleball guide. Okay, welcome back. I wanted to share with you just a few highlights from a training that my mindset and success coach did for my own clients. And I thought it'd be fun just to share some of the highlights. So my coach, Katharine Sawyer, was kind enough to speak with my clients. So my VIP clients, we try to do monthly trainings. A lot of the times they're with me, and then other times we'll bring in some special speakers, and it could be on just a variety of topics. But this time it was really on mindset training, because I think that's something that we overlook and we don't realize that is everything. Mindset is everything. If we don't have the proper mindset, if you're working towards a health goal, I mean, it just could just be a life goal, but specifically talking about fat loss, you really do have to have the right mindset for this to happen. So we were all over the board talking about everything from the all or nothing mentality to what do you do when motivation is gone? I mean, really just ran the gamut. But I wrote down a couple of quotes that stuck with me, and I think you'll enjoy hearing these as well. And one of them was replace failure, the word failure, with feedback. And I love this. So if you feel like, okay, you had a weekend that just went awry, it kind of went, everyone uses this expression, off the rails. You went off the rails. Well, instead of being like this weekend was a total failure, maybe you can say, this weekend gave me a lot of feedback. And then what was the feedback there? The feedback was you weren't prepared, right? The feedback was you didn't have healthy options to eat in your home at the time. And the feedback was you didn't look ahead at the menu to figure out what you were going to order when you went to dinner. The feedback was you did not have a conversation with yourself before going to a party or going out to decide how many adult beverages you were going to have. Maybe the feedback was that you did not prioritize, you didn't plan in your calendar when you were going to do your workout. Your feedback was that you went to bed too late. So there could be like a ton of feedback on a weekend. Maybe your feedback was you lost control because you overdid it or you over restricted through the week. And so then on the weekend, because it's not as scheduled, you kind of just went haywire. So I love that. So think about your failures. Instead of saying failure, say feedback. What's the feedback on this? So that was a great one. The other quote I really liked was, it's kind of a phrase. It's easier to act yourself into a new way of thinking instead of thinking your way into a new way of acting. So let me say that again. It's easier to act yourself into a new way of thinking instead of thinking your way into a new way of acting. Sometimes you just have to do it, right? You have to start doing the thing. Maybe it's the workouts. Maybe it's eating protein at every meal. Maybe it is forcing yourself to drink your water, every day. So whatever the action item is, we always think that the thought process comes first. And sometimes you just have to start doing it in order to become that person. So you can overthink something to death, but action's always going to win. And this is for anything in your life. I remember when I first became a faster weight coach, I could not overthink it. I mean, my social media stuff, now I feel comfortable. I don't really overstress it. What I look like, what I'm saying, if I flub up a little bit. But when I first started putting myself out on social media, I mean, it was really hard to not overthink it and want it to be perfect and do a million takes. And you, at some point, you just have to do it and go, you know what? The more repetitions that I do at this, the better I'm going to get. Nobody starts out being really good at something. It takes reps, right? It takes practice. That could be for any job that you're doing. We talk to our kids about that. Our daughter is doing a sales internship. The more presentations you do, the more phone calls you make, the more routine this is going to be, the easier it's going to be. If you start thinking about it, you're done. You just got to do it. And that you're not going to be great in the beginning, but it's the repetition that you need. It's the action. You need to act. I loved that quote. And I think if you're somebody we had a lot of comments from clients talking about what about when you lose motivation? And the answer to that is you will. It's not a matter of what if, it's a matter of when. I am a fitness and nutrition coach. I do not wake up every day feeling motivated to go do a HIIT workout or go on a walk or go to the grocery store or cook a healthy meal. Not every day do I feel that way. And most of the days I do because it's a habit for me. But you have to get to the point where you go, okay, motivation's going to wane. It's going to come and go. Motivation's like ebbs and flows. However, when you're not feeling motivated, that's when your discipline then takes over. So we have to be disciplined because discipline's always going to beat out motivation. So you're going to lack motivation at some point in time. If you're early in the stage of your journey, you might be highly motivated and that's carrying you through. But there's going to come a point where that motivation is going to wane. And hopefully you have set the habits in your life that become routine so that doing your morning walk or your morning workout is habitual to you as it is to brush your teeth. That's what we want. We want the healthy lifestyle to feel like it's just a normal part of your routine and that it's something that you enjoy. It's not a form of punishment. It's something that's a positive thing in your life. So that's another thing that we were talking about is just the positive spin that you put on things. So if you come up with a goal in your life, like what is it? Instead of saying, I want to lose 10 pounds, that's kind of not really positive. But what if I want to fit into this clothing by this certain date? That's a little more positive spin on it. And I really liked how someone, I think it was Katharine, had said, it's not what we're running from, but what are we heading to? So for that, it's like we're not running from the 10 pounds. We're heading to being able to fit into those clothes. So think about it that way. And it just kind of has a little more positive spin on it, for lack of a better word. Anyway, I hope that's helpful for you. I just think, remember those two little quotes: replace failure with feedback, and that it's easier to act yourself into a new way of thinking instead of thinking your way into a new way of acting. I want you to become the 2.0 version of yourself. I am definitely Jill 2.0. I'm Jill 5.0, let's be honest, I'm Jill 50.0. But you know what I mean. So what do you want for yourself in this 2.0 version of you? And write it down and ask yourself, why do you want that? And write that down. Do a little bit of journaling on that and then let me know what you come up with. All right, great to talk to you today. And I look forward to seeing you next week.